Morning, everyone. Here's the latest that happened overnight. So, first, we'll start with Israel and Iran, and then we'll head over to non Israel related news because I feel like there are really two buckets of news. The first, regarding Israel and Iran. Also, excuse any outside noise. I'm just recording where I can right now. It's really early in the morning, and I'm just doing my best here. So, first, Donald Trump has allowed for this 2 week diplomacy window between Israel and Iran before deciding on whether or not to strike Iran. European and Iranian officials are going to be meeting today and over the weekend in Geneva, Switzerland, to try to figure out some type of diplomatic resolution to the conflict before the United States has to go in and strike Iranian nuclear facilities. France, Germany, and the United Kingdom are proposing complete negotiations to Iran at this key meeting in Geneva, covering nuclear enrichment, ballistic missiles, and terrorism financing. Now, Emmanuel Macron, the French president, is warning that there is no tolerance for a nuclear armed Iran, stressing that there is an urgency in reassuring and returning to talks, aiming for zero enrichment and regional stability. Israel, meanwhile, is threatening Iran's leader. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned Iran's supreme leader that he has no immunity, signaling potential direct targeting. Israel's defense minister says Khamenei, the Ayatollah, cannot be allowed to continue to exist. On the ground, Iran and Israel continue to exchange overnight strikes with no signs of de escalation. Netanyahu is trying to target all of Iran's nuclear sites, and Iran is threatening to strike Channel 14 news offices, calling them Netanyahu's propaganda outlet. Now, before I continue, please consider supporting my work by subscribing to my Substack by clicking the button below or sending a one time donation via Venmo to Aaron Parnas. Your support is invaluable. Now, in non Israel news, here at home in the United States, Donald Trump failed to recognize Juneteenth at all yesterday and instead put out a post saying that there are too many non working holidays, despite previously claiming credit for raising awareness for Juneteenth before it became a federal holiday. Now, the White House did hold a private meeting with Black community leaders and senior Trump officials, but he did not publicly acknowledge Juneteenth. And according to reports, the Pentagon also was kind of urged by Pete Hegseth to just have a passive approach to Juneteenth messaging with no planned website content acknowledging the holiday. Overnight, a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals panel ruled that the Trump administration can continue to federalize the National Guard, at least for an indefinite period of time in California, dealing a blow to California Governor Gavin Newsom. In response, Donald Trump said that he will now be essentially open to using National Guard or federalizing the National Guard for all 50 states, for all cities across the country in which law enforcement and state officials, state and local law enforcement, cannot do their job. So he is essentially threatening to use the National Guard across America. Dodgers were blocking ICE access, say they stopped U.S. immigration agents from entering Dodger Stadium parking lot. Both the Department of Homeland Security and ICE are now denying that agents were ever present, however. There are new rules for detention center visits. The Department of Homeland Security is requiring lawmakers to give 72 hours notice before visiting detention centers, following several tense meetings between Democratic lawmakers, and trying to conduct their oversight duties in various detention facilities. The U.S. pandemic preparedness is weakening. According to experts, the United States is less prepared for a future pandemic now than before 2020, citing staff dismissals, poor responses to the bird flu, measles outbreak, and an overall weakened public health system. Scientists highlight reduced vaccine virus monitoring, lack of quality information, and insufficient pandemic planning as major risks. Donald Trump is moving to keep Michigan coal plants open. They are going to be invoking the National Energy Emergency Order to extend operations at two major coal plants despite opposition from state regulators, utility companies, and environmental groups. Critics are warning that this order will raise energy costs and worsen pollution, with the Monroe plant leading the nation in arsenic water contamination. According to Michigan officials, there's no energy emergency to justify the move. And overseas in Hong Kong, teachers are warned over U.S. related events. Educators are being told to avoid U.S. Independence Day celebrations, citing risks of violating national security laws. A message from a school principal advised staff to protect and discourage students from attending events organized by the U.S. consulate in Hong Kong. That's all the news right now. Please consider supporting my work today by subscribing to my Substack, clicking the button below, or sending a one-time donation via Venmo to Aaron Parnas. And I'll see you again this evening for another news rundown. So take care, everyone.